What's up, people? Welcome to week 7 of the Chasing Kilos podcast. This week, we are actually going to talk to you about the various types of equipment you might see at a gym or you could use to work out, and the pretty much the pros and cons of all the different types. We know that it can be a pretty daunting thing to go into the gym for the first time and not really know what to do, or like get ridiculed online pretty much for saying you only do the machines or you don't use the barbell at all or any of that pretty much. Um, but we're here to say that all modalities have some benefit to it,
For sure.
um, even if it's not the most you can get out of it. It's better than still just sitting at home and doing nothing about it. So Matt, where do you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah. Let's I guess like the first thing that I'll address is that I don't think that you should be like emotionally attached to one piece of equipment. Um like you find people who are like a barbell guy or there's like
Right.
barbell guys. And like they're both great tools and they can be used for different things. So I definitely want to like lead into it with like there's no bias and there's no like prejudice towards or against one. And I think that if you start to try to use one tool for everything, you're giving yourself and your clients like the biggest disadvantage ever. But that being said, I guess let's just start with barbells, just because I think that that's one that has the most like I don't want to say like passion behind it, but there's a lot of like preconceived notions for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I feel like everyone thinks that like the barbell is like the end result. And to be fair, like a lot of the progressions that you follow do end with like the barbell on your back or in your hands at some point. But once again, it's just a tool. But that being said, if I can only pick one tool to train with, it would probably be a bar, just purely because it's so versatile. It has the best long term loading potential if you're trying to
Right.
build strength, and then also obviously if you can put a ton of weights on, you can take all the weights off and use it for lighter movements as well. Um, the only downfall I would say of a barbell is it doesn't have like the pick up and go anywhere mentality of like another tool like a kettlebell or something like that. But as far as
Definitely.
like its pros, I would say the biggest thing is long term loading. Uh, you won't get that out of any other piece of equipment.
Yeah, definitely. Um, what about like how some people think, oh, if I'm just going in for the first time or whatever, I shouldn't touch that just because, it might hurt my back or shoulders or whatever.
I don't think that like the barbell isn't what's going to hurt you. It's poor technique and loading too soon. So I would say that any of the tools can hurt you. I think that, and there's no statistics behind this, and I don't want to say more people get hurt on a barbell, but I think you would have a higher chance of hurting yourself on a barbell because the potential for loading is bigger.
Yeah,
Like you're not going to accidentally pick up a kettlebell that's too heavy for you from the floor
right.
and squat with it. It's just not going to happen. But that being said, you can put too much weight on a bar in a rack and squat with it and hurt yourself.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I hope that answers the question well enough.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Um, I definitely agree with you there where I think if I had to choose one, it would be the barbell just for the versatility purposes. Um, it might take you, I mean, honestly, I think compared to all the other modalities, it'll probably take you around the same time to learn it to do properly.
Definitely.
I think it just has a slightly higher intimidating factor. But I don't want to say like everyone starts somewhere because that doesn't really say much to help you. But what would you say to help someone overcome that initial fear? I guess.
Yeah, I would say it's just like a tool, just like everything else. But then that being said, like so the way that Architect is set up, like the gym that I work at, there's like the platforms on one side and a lot of the barbell work is done over there. And then there's just the free weights. There's a rig on the other side and there's conditioning equipment. And like most of the barbell work is done on the other side purely for space reasons. But every once in a while we get people, and usually it's women who are like intimidated to step across and like go to the other side. But I always remind them like one, the same principles apply. And two, like if you're still intimidated, get a coach. Get someone who knows what they're doing with a barbell, and their confidence is going to kind of transfer over to you. And if you know you learned well, you're going to be safe long
Yeah,
term.
definitely. And then just one quick thing to add to that, a lot of people who haven't exercised before might think that the bar is a little too heavy for them. It might be in some cases, but in most cases, it's not. A standard barbell is either 20 kilos or 45 pounds. There's a slightly different conversion rate, but if you pick up like your average 6-year-old child, that's probably around
Right.
45 pounds.
I think it looks way more intimidating than it actually is, if that makes
Right.
sense. It looks really heavy and it looks really awkward and it is long, but it was literally created to pick things up.
Yeah. So what's the exercise you would choose if you had to choose one for a barbell?
That's so tough. So tough. If I was going to pick one exercise to do with a barbell that I couldn't do with any other piece of equipment, I guess I'm going to kind of not count the Olympic lifts just because that's such like a small subset and not everyone needs to do that anyway.
Yeah.
I would probably say, I want to say squats. And not because you can't squat with other pieces of equipment, because I think for the general population, you can get just as good of a workout with any other form of equipment. But at some point, if you really want a heavier squat, you're going to have to put a bar on your back. And like I said, once again, it's just the potential for loading.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to have to go with the sumo deadlift again.
Oh, that's a good call. That's really something you can't do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good answer.
Thanks. Yeah, pretty much same reason. You can load it up and you're picking something up. And that's probably where most people would have the higher chances of injuring themselves, just picking something up. And they're probably going to be picking it up with a more of a sumo stance rather than a conventional stance.
Right.
But yeah, that's my choice.
Well,
What are some?
you can deadlift on like a kettlebell or a hex bar, but you're not.
Yeah.
And you can sumo deadlift with kettlebells.
Right.
But like loading wise,
Yeah.
eventually you're somewhat strong to get the most out of your sumo deadlift. You're going to need to use a barbell.
Yeah. And I like the height. Like it's different from kettlebells.
Yeah.
It's a little easier to pick up, I guess.
Agreed.
What are some cons about it then? The bar, using the bar versus other stuff.
I think for me the biggest is like I don't want to say lack of versatility because now there's like so many things you can do just by using like a landmine
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I would say the lack of like portability, and that is just for such a small subset of the population that would like take a barbell to like a field and get a workout in or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which everyone thinks they want to do, and then God, no one does it. So I don't even know if I can call that a con. I think that's it.
Okay.
Or at least that's my biggest one for sure.
I think I'm gonna go with that you're like confined to that range of motion.
For sure. Like there is a specific bar path
Right.
that needs to be followed. Definitely.
Yeah. Like in a bench, you only can get to your chest, whereas dumbbells you can get slightly beyond. Or same thing with overhead press.
Right.
Yeah. But when looking for a barbell, some things to look out for in your gym. First of all, you always want to make sure your gym has good barbells because that's going to set you up for pretty much success or failure, or it's going to change the difficulty of your success. So first of all, obviously you want to make sure there's nothing rusted.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to make sure there's good knurling on it, which is the spiky part, I guess, the grippy part. You don't want it to dig into your hands too much, but you don't want it to be like flat where you don't get any grip.
Right.
And you should make sure that they're straight because some of the older ones can bend, especially when people drop like heavy rack pulls on it.
Right.
Tends to bend the bar. And if you use chalk, wipe it off because chalk will absorb moisture and lead to rust on the barbell if there isn't any already.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's good. I mean, once again, like if we're getting into more particular things, like different bars for different tools, but that's like at such a more advanced level that it's
Right.
not really worth nitpicking
Yeah.
at.
All right. Well, let's move into machines, I guess.
Yeah.
People always think it's like either a barbell versus a machine. I mean, a
Right.
barbell or a machine. Like those are the two main things. And I remember like a few years ago, probably like 5 years ago, people were all like anti-machine.
Yeah, it was like cool to bash on
Yeah.
machine.
Um, but it's really not that bad.
No, I think luckily we've kind of grown from that. And they can be used for certain things. Like every once in a while, I'll have someone who just has like injuries or they're overweight or they have some sort of limitation, and the machine's just the best way to do it. Um, and then also they can be good for certain movements. Like for example, while we work on our pull-up progressions, like with bands and stuff like that, inverted rows, sometimes I'll have people just doing lat pull downs just because it strengthens those muscles.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah. They're great for accessories too if you don't want to like overload a certain muscle group and
For
you
sure.
just want to isolate something.
Right. Um, that's why I think like I hesitate to say this, but think every good gym should have at least like one cable machine.
Yeah.
Because there are things you can do on that cable machine that you can't do on a bar or a kettlebell or dumbbells. And we just got one, and I'm super excited about that.
But then there's like such a huge variety of machines.
Yeah.
What would be like a good way to figure out if something's worth going to or if it's worth using like a dumbbell or a barbell instead?
Yeah, I think it depends on like the movement you're doing and
Yeah.
how much load you need. Um, so obviously, like it comes to a certain point where like if you're working like a hinge movement for lower reps and more load, cable pull throughs might not be the best option, just because you'll literally run out of room on the plate stack. But that being said, if you need an assistance movement that's easy on your lower back, and it's a hinge movement, like cable pull throughs are fantastic. So it really just depends on like what your goal is and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Another one is that like a lot of the more stationary machines might not be built for every body type.
Yes, yes.
So if you're in that category, obviously you would want to choose something else.
It's funny because actually we have a client who wants to buy like an exercise bike for her house, but none of the like Schwinn air bikes that we have at the gym fit her. She's too short, and the
Oh
seat
yeah.
like adjusts forward enough for her to even use the pedals. So like that's just a perfect example of like she's gonna have to find either like a specialty bike or find a different type of machine.
Yeah, exactly. What are some cons besides the size limiting factor, I guess?
Well, for sure, like you're in like a set path or a set range of motion, and you're not using like your own body in free space to kind of manipulate the object. We'll call it functional, call it whatever you want. You're gonna get like less transfer over to like athletic development, and just kind of like real world activity. So there's that, and then I don't know. I mean, honestly, like you said, just being stuck, like you're at the whims of whatever the presets are. Like if your leg length doesn't fit that machine,
Right.
you're going with too long or too short.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything besides that actually.
Yeah, I mean, like
Uh,
it's pretty straightforward
yeah,
machines.
it's good if you want to help someone like feel what,
Definitely,
if they're doing it right or wrong.
definitely.
It's kind of hard, but what's your favorite machine then?
Oh, if I had like one that I couldn't live without, I
Yeah,
think it's too easy to say like a cable machine, obviously, because you can do so many things on that.
yeah,
Oh man, if I could live without one machine, it'd probably just be like a single cable attachment, like a pulley attachment, just because you can do so much on that. I hope that's not a cop out, but
yeah. No.
like, I mean,
What
like,
about like? Do you have like a favorite exercise?
I keep thinking in my head pull throughs. I really do. I love pull throughs. Those I'll program a lot for people, and then I mean for arm work, I find that the cable machine is just so much easier on your joints. Like I can get anyone to do like push downs and curls with a cable machine and not really have like elbow or wrist pain. But that being said, sometimes with like a bar or dumbbells, it can get a little achy.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if it's just my positioning, but whenever I do like tricep stuff without a machine, my elbows get a little clicky.
I'm the same way. I get like tendonitis so fast if my form's not so good on the
Right.
tricep.
I had something to say about something you're talking about, but I forget. But I'm gonna go with the same. I'll go with the cable machine just because they're so versatile. Um, I like the pull downs just
Yeah,
because banded pull-ups can be difficult, especially if you're shorter, just to get into that position.
they're also just, I mean, they can be awkward
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. I'll probably just come back to it.
No, if it comes back, yell at me.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, all right. Let's move on to dumbbells, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your just general thoughts on dumbbells?
I think they're great. I think they're a wicked, obviously good complement to barbells, and they allow you to load unilaterally a little bit better. And then I think the other big thing, and I wish I had thought of it before that you had mentioned, is just more range of motion. Much more range of motion, like for a chest press or an overhead press or whatever you may be doing.
Yeah. I also like that they start lighter than a barbell.
That's a really
So
good point too. Yeah.
yeah,
Like obviously you can buy specialty barbells, but your average gym is not going to have like a technique or a training bar.
right.
Just it's not worth their investment.
Um, I don't know. I just like that. You can do so many different exercises with dumbbells. You're not restricted to anything. It's pretty much just your grip, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, are there any cons that you might see?
I guess like yeah, like I guess like as you get really heavier, uh,
Yeah,
it's hard to get like so for example, like an incline dumbbell chest press. Eventually you're probably gonna want to use the barbell. Just
yeah,
because like the getting the dumbbells up and then getting them back down will probably be more of a risk for injury than the movement itself. Um, so I guess the restrictions and the cons only really come once things get really heavy.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, especially if you're doing especially if you're doing an overhead press,
Yeah.
it's hard to get those into position. Um, I don't know. I just like how they work your grip. I think that's a big thing for me. And then also another big factor which makes me like them more is that they work each side individually
Yeah.
rather than with the bar you're doing both at the same time.
Right.
And usually most people have either their left or right side that's stronger, so it might take over a little more than what a dumbbell could do for it.
Right. And then if you pick your weight based on like your weaker side, uh, um, then you'll obviously long term really sort out those imbalances between the two.
Yeah. All right, what's your favorite dumbbell exercise? Oops.
I would probably say, and I guess it's not necessarily just a dumbbell exercise. I'd probably say the goblet squat, just
Ooh,
from
nice.
a coaching and a teaching perspective.
Yeah.
Like just like from coaching form on a squat, using a dumbbell is my go-to in a goblet squat position, and I think that that really helps set people up to either continue on with the dumbbells or move to a kettlebell or even go up to a barbell with their squatting.
I was gonna say that answer. That's definitely a good answer.
Well, the other one too is my backup would be like just the fact that you can do more of like neutral grip pressing and stuff. Um, so that too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I love goblet squats. I still do them. So don't think that just because you're past it means you can.
Yeah, that's like a common misconception. I feel like is that goblet squats are just for beginners.
Yeah.
You can make them very hard.
Yeah. Um, I actually like the dumbbell seal row on an incline.
Yeah, those are amazing.
Yeah, those are usually my go-to back exercise just because they work pretty much everything in your back.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's supported on a bench, so you don't have to worry about your low back giving out if you were doing like barbell rows or just bench dumbbell rows.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I love those.
yeah. What about kettlebells? Those just seem like they're the most foreign for most people here.
Yeah, well, like literally, I mean,
Yeah,
they got their start in Russia, and I would argue that the best combination of if you put a gun to my head and make me pick two implements I could only train with for the rest of my life, it'd probably be a bar and a kettlebell. Um, I think there's no better tool for developing like general physical preparedness, and like a conditioning tool than a kettlebell. And also, you can develop a pretty good level of strength as well. Like I said, if you really want to squat like 1,000 pounds or whatever, you're not going to do it with just a kettlebell. It's just not going to happen. But that being said, like swings, snatches, get ups, like there's so many good movements that you can do with a bell that you can't really do with other things.
yeah, definitely. Uh, those most of those are a little more advanced, but they're still like there's a really good. I mean, it's really easy to get started.
Definitely, I feel like kettlebells are so approachable.
Yeah,
And then also the portability and the convenience factor. Like you can buy one kettlebell, one, and get a pretty good workout in your home, as opposed to like just buying a barbell or just buying one dumbbell. I think that from like a cost perspective standpoint, for minimalism, the kettlebell wins every single time.
yeah, definitely. Like if you were to invest in a home gym, you would obviously need to buy plates for your bar, or you'd have to buy either a dumbbell set, or you can get one of those the adjustable ones. But if you just had like a 50-pound kettlebell, that should last you.
Yeah, you can get so much done.
Yeah.
Like so much done. Conditioning, strength, hypertrophy work, like literally just about everything.
I actually don't use a lot of kettlebells in my training, but what would you say would be like a con about it?
Potential for loading. Same thing with the dumbbells and the machines. Like you're not gonna be able to build like raw root strength with just a kettlebell as efficiently as you could with a bar.
Yeah,
You'll get strong. Don't get me wrong. Other than that, I don't really think there is. I think it's the same thing with all the tools of like a lot of times I've noticed like people who are into kettlebells get very one dimensional and stuck with just using kettlebells, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, I think that's the one thing for about kettlebells. I think it affects us who are in the industry more than like the average everyday gym goer.
Right. I'm sure like the average person wouldn't even understand like that this is the thing that happens.
Yeah, but pretty much there's a group of people who specialize in kettlebells, and they pretty much think more or less that that's like the only way or that's the best way to do everything. And it's a great way to do a lot of things, but it's not everything.
Right. And same thing for anything, whether it's training or food
Yeah,
or life. Like if someone says there's only one way to do things and there's no other way, they're lying to you, or they're stupid and they're the ones that believe that themselves. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But same thing, you can get caught up in that trap. Like there's people who say don't do anything but use a barbell or else you're a bitch, which is obviously not true either. You
yeah.
know?
I actually I haven't gotten a chance to try these, but I really like these where the handle is inside.
Yeah, I like that too a lot.
Yeah,
I've heard they're like very useful. It's almost like a combination dumbbell and a kettlebell.
right.
My
Oh,
argument would be like you lose one of the benefits of kettlebell training though, and that's like the offset load. So
yeah,
like you're pressing like a dumbbell,
right.
the weight sits in your hand and you're applying the pressure straight up into it. And the same thing with a kettlebell, but the load isn't here; it's like offset to the side.
Yeah.
And I think that from like a GPP standpoint is so valuable.
Do you have any advice on like people like sometimes if they're holding a heavier one on the side, this part of their wrist could get pretty hurt or not injured, but just it could be uncomfortable.
Right. Unfortunately, so like when I worked at Ethos, that kettlebell gym in Boston, that's where I really learned like a lot about kettlebells, and I'm still scratching the surface here. But I remember the same thing when I started, and I mean, I'm used to like hook gripping a barbell, like heavy cleans, just beating the crap out of me. And I was having bruises here, like it beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And it's just something that like you get used to. Like the same thing as like using a hook grip. Your body will just get used to that. That being said, there are little like wrist pads. They don't look as silly as they sound that you can buy just while you're dialing in like your technique and you're newer to it. But especially with like the cleans and the snatches, like if you're getting those big bruises, it's probably because your technique's not the best, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing is like at a certain point, it becomes more comfortable to squat comfortable with a barbell than it is with a heavy kettlebell, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think one of the cons about it actually is that most bigger gyms don't have a wide selection of kettlebells.
Yeah, you either have to use like the teeny tiny or the dusty giant one that no one even touches.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What's your exercise then?
I want to say kettlebell swings. I just think from a conditioning standpoint, they're fantastic because it's not like you're doing snatches or cleans for conditioning. Like once you get the form down, they can look pretty good. And also just for producing like hip extension in like a violent, quick, and dynamic way. It's so much more accessible than cleaning or other forms.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. You said you're a big fan of cable pull-throughs.
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of trouble feeling those in my glutes when I first started doing them. Do you have any, like, I think I felt it more in holding the rope in my hands.
Yeah. That's I feel like a lot of people have that issue. And I think a lot of that is like your balance and your weight positioning on your feet. You're going to have to lean forward a little bit to get more weight on there. You know what I mean? So that you can even like load up the glutes and target them. And then that wants to pull you forward or pull you back, excuse me. So I think I find a lot of people go a little either too light or their weight's all on their heels. So a lot of times what I'll tell people to do is just think about digging their big toes into the ground. And then they actually like get that activation and their weight centered a little bit more. Because a lot of times what you see is people instead of actually like hinging at the hips, they're more just like falling backwards with their butt and they're not really loading anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just like cleaning up that hinge pattern.
No, I did start to feel it when I went a little heavier with it.
Yeah, I think people do those too light.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of like people see it from like your Instagram, like fitness models and stuff. And you have to remember when they're filming the video of them doing that movement, it's probably not to develop their glutes as much as it is to show you their plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's obviously like 10 pounds on the cable stack. So just pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's a big muscle. It's one of your biggest muscles, so it can handle load.
Oh, they're so strong. Yeah. They're so strong.
Yeah. But anyway, back to kettlebells. I think I'm going to choose the get up as my go-to for kettlebells.
I think that would potentially be a better answer because that's like the one movement that you can't do with anything else. Like you could, but that's what kettlebells are for.
Yeah. Those of you who don't know what it is, it's pretty much you're lying down on the floor and then you have to stand up and get back on the ground with a kettlebell in your hand.
And it doesn't sound that hard, yet it is humbling movements you'll do.
Yeah, it's a very technically challenging exercise, but it does work a lot.
And then that being said, like if you can do a get up with a lot of heavy weight, a lot of things are going right for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people who can deadlift a shit ton, who at the I don't know, like at the strongest wind being blown, their body could just fall apart. But if you can do like a heavy get up, your joints are probably working pretty well. You have pretty good mobility, you have pretty good stability, and you're just pretty well rounded, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You ever try it with a bar or like anything weird?
Yeah, like one time and I almost died. I think the most impressive feat of strength I've ever seen in person was I interned for a guy who did a get up, one on each side with a 70-kilo bar, and that blew my mind. It was unreal.
Yeah. I think the heaviest I've ever done it was 50 kilos, and that was
With
a
the bar?
struggle. No, kettlebell.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, still, like, that's so hard.
Uh, yeah. So, all right, that's pretty much it for the conventional modalities, I guess. Do you want to do like one? We'll each pick one specialty thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, do you have one in mind?
No, you can go first.
I'm trying to think of something that's like not too specialty, but I think like just as like bands, as like a training tool in small doses can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Especially when you're traveling. Like nothing beats just folding up a band and putting it in a bag. Nothing. And then also like they add to movements. Like you can use bands with your squats and your deadlifts and your bench. Not everyone needs to do that. But then also like I like doing just arm work and assisted exercises with a band, like band face pulls, band push downs, band curls. Just seem to be so much easier on your joints than
Yeah.
Traditional variations.
I definitely agree. I like doing them with bands too.
And you can just do a ton of reps and kind of like go more for feel and not
Yeah.
really have to worry about any like bad effects happening.
I really want to say like a safety squat or a cambered bar, but I haven't used either of those.
We have both at Architect, and it was so hard for me not to say the safety squat bar. Like the cambered bar is great too, but I don't know if they're all like this. At least the one that we have at Architect is a 40-kilo bar. It's just a beast. And
40 kilos.
Yeah, and it's very limiting in the sense that like shorter people have a hard time just getting it out of the stand.
Yeah.
But so in that regard, and it might not even be true that they're all 40 kilos, I would definitely go with the safety squat bar. I mean, you can do so much. And just the fact that being able to squat with a shoulder injury
Yeah.
was amazing.
Have you tried it?
Yeah, not like, so I haven't used it for like heavy programming or like long-term stuff. But yeah, I've been playing around with a lot of different drills, and I actually think it helps me find like a way better bar path in my squat.
Oh, wow.
It feels so, at first it's going to feel weird, but it feels like if you made me say what the most natural way to squat would be, I would say the safety squat bar kind of pushes you into that. It feels good.
I definitely get that. Yeah, so I guess you just answered it for me.
Sorry.
No. I because I never used it. I do want to try to use it, but obviously I don't have access to one.
Hey, come up to our.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about ours is the shoulder pads are like kind of wide. If that makes sense. So like instead of it kind of hugging you right here, it's farther out. Like so for me or you, that's fine.
Right.
Shorter framed or thinner framed people have a hard time with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But pretty much in the end, guys, just find whatever works best for you. A weight, I mean,
well, I was gonna say, you're
100.
doing a serious disservice.
Yeah.
Limiting it to only one tool.
Right. Regardless, 100 pounds, still 100 pounds.
Right.
Just make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, I was gonna say like none of it applies if you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like using a barbell poorly is gonna get you hurt. Using a kettlebell poorly is gonna get you hurt. You know.
Yeah.
Same thing for everything.
Right. But besides that, I guess just because a lot of like women have trouble with regular barbells just because they're thicker.
Yeah.
They don't have the female barbells at most gyms.
Yeah.
So although it would be really great to train your grip strength with that, it might be easier if you use, say, like a kettlebell or a dumbbell with a thinner grip.
Right, for sure. The grip plays a huge factor. Once again, we're spoiled, and like we have the women's bars at Architect, and they get used so much. And like sometimes I'm always worried someone's gonna be like, "Oh, like why do I have to use the women's bar?" Almost as in like a not a derogatory, but like as if they're not strong enough for the men's bar. And
right.
That's exactly it. It's just that women typically have smaller hands.
Yeah.
So you can actually wrap your fingers around it and get a good grip.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all we got for today. if you learned something, then that's great. Please share it so someone else could potentially learn something. If you didn't, share it anyway, just in case obviously someone else wants to learn. If you have any questions, drop it down below. If you have any ideas for a future topic, drop it down below. And you guys can reach us at Instagram.com/chasing strength and at kilos and closings. You got anything to close with, Matt?
I think that covers it.
All right. One last tip before we go. It's been pretty nice in the Northeast recently, but you never know when we're going to get snow. So I just want to go through some safe shoveling techniques, I guess.
Crazy how many people hurt themselves shoveling. I forget like the statistics, but it's way higher than you would think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig it up and like send it to you, and maybe you can attach it in the show notes.
But all right, yeah. So while Matt's trying to find that, pretty much you just want to learn how to deadlift first. If you can deadlift, then take that and shovel with it. Pretty much you want to not have a rounded back as much as possible. You want to keep it as flat as possible, and you want to use your legs and your hips rather than your arms and your back, because your arms and back will tire out quicker than your legs will. And also, if you have a tired back, everything else gets that much harder. So if possible, keep your hands in between, or stand with a wider stance. Keep your hands in between your knees, kind of like a sumo deadlift stance. Pick that up with, try to keep your back straight. Tighten up your core like someone's about to hit you in the stomach. And then push your hips through to pick up the snow and then toss it wherever.
I love it. I found the stat too. So this is according to the American Journal of Emergency Medicine. And it says that each year, over 11,000 adults and children go to the hospital for shoveling-related injuries.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, back injuries are the big one. And then I think a lot of it, too, is like heart attacks and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
For those of us who are less in shape.
Yeah. That's actually one of the main areas of my life where I saw an improvement from lifting.
Shoveling?
Shoveling, yeah.
That's awesome. No, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, so this says that a lot of it's basically like made because of how the shovels are made. Like it promotes you to basically do the opposite of what Joey just said, and lift with your back in like a twisting, bending motion.
Yeah.
Which is how I would have you lift if I wanted to hurt your
back. Push as much as you can. If you can get one of those pushing shovels, we have one of those.
Those are so nice.
Yeah.
Or get a snowblower.
Yeah, or get a snowblower. Just don't, just be safe with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet there's more injuries on that thing.
Yeah. But that's all we got for today. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Sweet.